Good day to you, sir, and also to my classmates. We are the Group 1, and we are here to report about the self from the perspective from various philosophers. Philosophy is derived from the ancient Greek word philosophia, which means the love of wisdom. This means to seek and understand fundamental truths about ourselves and the world in which we live in, and our relationship to the world and to each other. The study of philosophy helps us to enhance our ability to solve our problems, our communication skills, our power to persuade, and our writing skills. In a deeper sense, to study philosophy is to study about life and its reality. We students study philosophy in order for us to identify reality, to value each one's existence, to understand reasons, to reflect, and to open our minds towards learning and accepting ideas and issues and truth. As a human being, we begin to study and learn philosophy in order to enhance our problem-solving capacities, to practice our ability to explain difficult materials, and to help us eliminate ambiguity and vagueness as our nature. Philosophy is but the study of theoretical basis of particular branches of knowledge or experience. The following are the most known philosophers from the Chuchuchines: Ancient Greek triumvirate Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Medieval philosophers: Saint Augustine and Anthony de Mello. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Christian Joseph A. Gamboa, and today I will talk about Socrates. So Socrates was born in 470 BCE in Demi Alopece of Athens. So Socrates was a very known philosopher, for he was one of the first people who was concerned about the problem of self or knowing oneself. He asked questions about our existence and self, while other philosophers are focusing on questioning the universe or the science of universe. So, and because of Socrates' ideas, other philosophers also starts asking questions about the meaning of beingness and self. So, one of his very famous quote is "Know thyself." That means we should know and examine ourselves or our life, for he believed that the greatest wisdom comes from oneself. It's like soul searching, for if we examine our life or oneself, it would give us knowledge to answer the question on how we should live. He also believed and said, an unexamined life is not worth living, where he wants to say that we should reflect ourselves, our beingness, our life, and things that's beyond what we see, like ideas and even death. Because through this question and examining ourselves, it will help us to realize the worth or the value of living and to continue in our life. And as we grow older, we discover more questions about ourselves and find answers to the question we asked before in ourselves. Also, he quotes that the worst thing that can happen to anyone is to live but die inside. It means that you are alive but not truly living, just surviving. You can have the ability to do things or not to do it, but you don't find fulfillment or any feeling about it. Or having the feeling of regret or burden like a knife stab in your heart because there are things that you did and did not did before. It is like the act of giving up on life. So Socrates was also known for his Socratic approach or Socratic questioning. So Socratic questioning is used in psychology. So Socratic approach is teaching by questioning, and by questioning, the person that is being asked would have realization. So if they will only have the realization if the right question is being asked, and they would find out the answer to them in to themselves or in themselves if they ask the right question to the things that they don't know or they were not able to answer before. So Socrates was accused of corrupting the mind of the youth in Athens and was sentenced to death by drinking hemlock in 399 BC. Hemlock is a poisonous flower plant, but even in his death, he successfully made the people think about who they are and question themselves. So Socrates could have escaped his demise through his connections, but he failed but he faced the sentence and the death. Even in his death, it was like the last lesson to his students that they should face the challenges in life calmly and fairly. He also believed that every person is dualistic. It means we are composed of two parts, which is our body and our soul. And those two is very important aspect to our personhood or in our individuality. He believed that our body is imperfect and impermanent, which means our body has flaws and it won't last forever. So, on the other hand, our soul is perfect and permanent, and he believes that our soul is the responsible agent in knowing and acting rightly or wrongly, and it is the person's true self. So Socrates believed in dichotomous realms, or two realms, the physical realm and the ideal realm. The physical realm is transient or which could last only for a short time and it is imperfect. And our body belongs to physical realm. And the ideal realm, which is unchanging and immortal or forever, which is our soul belongs to. If we connect If we connect it to our belief, the physical realm is the earth and the ideal realm is the heaven. But the concept of soul of Socrates should not be viewed from the religious conception of Christianity. And to what I read on the internet about the philosophy of Socrates in knowing oneself and knowing souls, the things that makes life meaningful is knowledge, wisdom, and virtue. For knowing oneself is having knowledge, wisdom, virtue, and living accordance to it. The true self is our virtuous self. And that's all of it. I hope you understand. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. Today, I would like to talk about the concept of self. First, in ancient Greek philosophy, we could not find any systematic articulation or documents of the concept of self, but instead, we can find in the ancient Greeks conception of the self questions like these questions here. As you can see, what defines the fundamental identity of individual, or what is the fundamental truth about human nature? Questions like that are pretty common in philosophy of ancient Greek. Then there are many philosophers in ancient Greek, and in my report we will just focus on Plato. Plato made a theory that is the Plato's tripartite theory of soul. This means that in every person there have three parts. First is the logisticon, then thymoides, and epithemicon, also known as the rational self, spirited soul, and appetitive soul. Rational self is the reason and intellect to govern affairs. It is part of the soul that loves logic, thought, and rational learning. And it is said that logical part of the soul is dominant. If this is the dominant part of your soul, one can distinguish well between fantasy and reality. It is also wise and able to make decisions that are just. So you're something that if your soul is logisticon dominant, you're a wise person. You can identify whether things are fantasy or reality. Next is the spirited soul, thymoides, usually thought as the most spirited of the three parts. It is the part of the soul that causes people to experience strong emotions, particularly anger and temper. It is also associated soul with a desire to do good because in his view, it was spirit that enabled courage and passionate principle. So that spirited soul also means that it is the cause and why we feel emotions, or it is the source where our emotions came from. And after that, we will talk about appetitive soul. Appetitive soul is fundamentally base desires. When these are attained, the human person's soul becomes just and virtuous. Appetitive soul fundamentally irrational with an innate tendency towards excess. It is the third and the lowest form of soul. Appetitive soul or epithemicon represents the penetration of the flux of the body to the soul. For example, if you feel pain in your body, it will reflect to the soul. For example, of desires, appetitive desires are pleasures and pains, and it is directed toward physical objects. For example, if you have wait, if this is your body and this is your soul, if what ha- if ever something happens to your body, it will reflect to your soul. That is what it means in the appetitive soul. And everything that you experience in appetitive soul in your body, it will reflect to your soul. That's what it means in the appetitive soul. Next is I will show you an illustration of where is that kind of soul located based on the tripartite theory of soul. The rational or logical seeks truth and is swayed by facts and arguments. It is located here here at your brain. Next is the spirited or emotional, how feelings fuel our actions. And lastly, the appetitive soul, which drives you to eat, have sex, and protect yourself. And that's all about my report. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So now we are going to discuss about understanding the self in perspective of Aristotle. So first, let's take a look of who is Aristotle. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher and polymath during the classical period in ancient Greece. Aristotle was taught by Plato. He was the founder of Lyceum, the peripatetic school of philosophy, and the Aristotelian tradition. Aristotle was also one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived and the first genuine scientist in history. He also made pioneering contributions to all field of philosophy and science. He invented the field of formal logic and identified the various scientific disciplines and explored their relationship to each other. So that is Aristotle and his contribution in the field of philosophy. So now, let's proceed to Aristotle's understanding the self. Aristotle believed that the soul is the essence of the self. So let's cut it down and by adding some questions of how and why. So first, how and why that the soul is the essence of life? Is it because the soul is nothing without life? Or vice versa? Or let's say that the life itself really needed the soul in order to be completed. So let's find out. In understanding the self, soul is the immaterial aspects or essence of a human being. Therefore, the self is nothing without the soul. Why? Because it is stated there that the soul is the immaterial essence of a human being. So, in addition, self without the soul is just like a car without a driver. It can't be used, or in other words, it's useless. That's why Aristotle truly believed that the soul is the essence of life. So let's proceed to the next saying of Aristotle. Regarding to the understanding of self, it is stated there that the soul is that which makes a person a person. It is just related to what we've discussed earlier, which is the soul is the essence of life. So what does it mean? We all know that the soul is the immaterial aspects of a human being. So, what is in the soul that makes a person truly a person? Soul represents who we are. It connects to our mind, will and desires, personal preferences, choices, and emotional responses. Our soul is reflected to our personality and who we are as a person. Aristotle once said that the soul is that which make a person, which is I myself strongly agree, because me, our soul, is what we are. If we are a joyful person, or a high-tempered person, or whatever we are, that's our soul. That makes us truly a person. There's that one saying about soul. It's that heart of gold and stardust soul that makes you beautiful. So let's move on to the next saying of Aristotle about the understanding of the self. It is stated in there that the soul is simply the form of the body and is not capable of existing without the body. This saying is just talks about the soul can't be recognized without the body. What I mean is, soul is just an immaterial aspect of a human being, and obviously, it needs something or a form that helps it able to exist in our world. The body is the physical aspects of a conceptual image in a person's view, feelings, thoughts, and opinions. In addition, body is the only material or form that in a way soul will be recognized. Let's say, for example, you have a cell phone. A cell phone needs a battery for it to function. It is the same as the soul and the body. The body represents the cell phone, and the battery represents the soul. The cell phone needs battery for it to function. That's why the absence in any of those will result to problem. Because if the soul can't find a body where it is capable, then it won't exist anymore. That's all for the perspective of Aristotle in relation to understanding self. Thank you.
Vegetative soul has the capacity for growth and reproduction, but does not have the capacity to receive and react to sense impressions or the capacity for rational thought. So it means that plants can grow and reproduce but cannot acquire any feelings or impression. So, for example, there is a plant or a tree, and time goes by, its height grows. So, does it laugh? No. Does it cry? No, not at all. So, it means that plants or tree don't have feelings at all. Essential soul, or the soul of perception, is the part of the soul that allows us to perceive the world around us. It encompasses the senses, but also allows us to remember things that happen to us, experience pain and pleasure, have appetites and desires. Most animals and all humans possess the sensible soul, while plants do not. Of course, not all animals have the same abilities of perception. Those who solely possess sense organs for a single sense can potentially not be actualized by the sensible soul, and more like plants, possessing only the nutritive soul. A cricket, for example. When an animal or a human get hurt, what would they do? They cry, right? They cry for the reason that human and animals have emotion to express on. The rational soul belongs to man alone. The rational soul is that by virtue of which we possess the capacity for rational thought. Aristotle divides rational thought into two groups. The first is the passive intellect. It is the part of our mind that collects information and stores it for later use. This is almost an extension of the sensible soul in that it allows us to act upon the information gathered by that part of the soul. So, rational is more like gathered information for us to understand everything we know and we don't. That's why we are far from animals for the reason that humans have initiative.
Good day to each and every one of you, especially to you, sir. I am Kianex Baligwat, and today I'm going to tackle a topic about the self from the perspective of Saint Augustine. But first, who is Saint Augustine? Saint Augustine is one of the most famous philosophers back in medieval period. Saint Augustine has done a lot of contribution in the field of philosophy. So let's proceed to his perspective of the word self. First, Saint Augustine follows the view of Plato but adds Christianity. Plato's concept about self is all about the rational soul as the highest form of cognition. His concept focuses about soul, yeah, its superiority. Sa una, sa iyang time which Greek, wala sila kailangan God. While Saint Augustine's concept, he adds Christianity to it, more like iyang iputs God as center of everything. Second perspective is man is bifurcated nature, where part of man dwells in the world and yearns to be divine, other part is capable of reaching immortality. Man is bifurcated. When we talk about bifurcated, it means it is divided. There are two kinds of aspects which Saint Augustine rather, told, which is the materialistic world or earth, and another type of world which is higher than the first one, which in that world, it is the world we want to live because neither to see God. Yes. In Saint Augustine's perspective, that other man dwells in the world and yearns to be divine, it means that Naito in this imperfect world that wants to be divine despite how hard it is to achieve because earth is earth and earth is perfectly imperfect. For example, kanang pari. Before siya napari, there are a lot of obstacles nga niharang niya in order to reach that kind of position. And that kind of position serves as a divinity which makes them closer to God. Because ang pari kay na his faith to God. And only some divinity can show what divinity can show man what is like. Only some divinity can show man what is true. On the second part, it says it is capable of reaching immortality. It means that once we die and proceed to the second world, we live with God eternally. In other words, Saint Augustine makes us relate ourselves through faith para makaibaw ta kinsa jud ta or what we really are. In the last part, where Augustine perspects that body dies on earth, soul lives eternally in spiritual bliss with God. This means that once we die, our body will stay here on earth, while our soul goes to the other world where God lives, and it will live eternally in spiritual bliss. And spiritual bliss means everlasting joy or happiness. Kung bisayon, kung mamatay ta, atong lawas kay mabilin sa earth. Nya at sa earth nga atong gipuy-an. And atong soul kay proceed sa other world kung asa gapuyong Ginoo, kung mabuhi ta didto nga malipayon, nya mabuhi ta nga dili mamatay, sakitan, magutom ug uban pa. Again, Saint Augustine's perspective about self is he follows the view of Plato but adds Christianity to it. And second one is man is a bifurcated crime, a nature, where part of man dwells in the world and yearns to be divine, and the other part is capable of reaching immortality. And the last part is body dies on earth, soul lives eternally in spiritual bliss with God. So that ends my discussion, and thank you so much.
Be aware of what you're saying. Be aware of what you're doing. Be aware of what you're thinking. Be aware of how you're acting. Be aware of where you're coming from, that what your motives are. The unaware life is not worth living. The unaware life is a mechanical life. It's not human, it's programmed and conditioned. This saying of Anto de Melo means self-awareness is important, because when we have better understanding of ourselves, we are able to experience a unique and separate individuals. We are empowered to make changes and build on our areas of strength, as well as identify the areas where we would like to make an improvements. If you are self-aware enough to know your strengths and weaknesses, you will know which goals you need to set and the strategies that will make you achieve them. Self-awareness allows us to see things from the perspective. Practice self-control, work creatively and productively, and experience pride in ourselves. An individual who is aware of everything, he can do better assess their approach to daily life, creating boundaries and growth with respect. Furthermore, this consciousness of your own actions and feelings will help you better understand others. Life is always flowing. Life is always changing. When you cling, life is destroyed. When you hold on to anything,
you cease to live. This saying means you will never repeat the same moment twice. Every day is different from the day before. Your body has changed. Your thoughts have changed. And the world around you has changed. We ourselves are constantly changing as we move through life. If we let go of a fixed idea of ourselves, and if we don't always resist change, we can evolve and adapt and respond creatively. We can see that we are changeable with the potential to develop more of the good qualities of our true nature. You need constant change because it is part of growth process. We grow in life by changing. We change our old ways and adapt new. We begin to garner better knowledge of who we ought to be and what our calling. Change makes us better and offered us better chances. We flow, we give permission to let things happen and unfold naturally, as they are meant to be. And we get much better outcomes this way. Going with the flow about developing certain habits and ways of thinking that open us up to expansion. You're never so full of yourself as when you're in pain. You're never so centered on yourself as when you're depressed. You're never so ready to forget yourself as when you're happy. Happiness releases you from self. It is suffering and pain, misery, depression that tie you to the self. This saying of Anthony de Mello means happiness is about being content, not seeking one thrill after the other. We have a tendency to tie our happiness with achieving the next something, like a book deal, a relationship, getting a new car, traveling the world, attaining your goals and dreams. This brings happiness, but being content with the journey of getting there is far more rewarding. Happiness is already within us. It is through striving for the next thing, avoiding to deal with matters you run away from that bring up suffering. Connected to the previous lesson, it helps us to try not to identify with that suffering when we focus on what we don't. You stop living in the present. This way we can be content and feel the natural happiness that lies within. Through hoping for something else, you forgot what you already have. Try to express gratitude for what you have at this very moment. When you make yourself appear to be happy to others, but don't truly feel this way internally, to everyone else it looks like you're having the time of your life, but on the inside you feel as though something is missing. No matter what you accomplish, you still feel unfulfilled. Regardless of whatever wonderful things happen to you, you may still feel as though you're searching for something you can't explain. Sometimes you just have to smile, pretend everything is okay, hold back the tears and just walk away. Being in pain feels like being full with yourself. You are full of anger, sadness, and loneliness. Of allowing in our life.
Hi, good day. I'm Isabelaine Bikimud, and I'm going to tackle the some sayings of Anthony de Mello. So the first one would be, you can only change through awareness and understanding, by Anthony de Mello. So the quote came from the book Awareness by Anthony de Mello. Anthony de Mello was an Indian priest and psychotherapist. He was a spiritual teacher and public speaker who drew wisdom from both East and West traditions. So, awareness awakens you to the truth that you possess everything you need right now to be happy and fulfilled. Happiness is your natural state. You don't need to do anything to acquire it. You only need to drop something, and when you finally awake, you don't try to make good things happen, they just happen. You understand suddenly that everything that happens to you is good. You understand that all is well, even at all times, when things seem a mess. You discover that there is a loving force surround you at all times, always right here in your midst, making your life meaningful, beautiful, and rich. So, following those lessons from the book will help you to wake up reality, see the world again with wonder, crawl into logic of being an animal, help reprogram your mind, and understand what happiness truly is. Let this article convince you to wake up and become aware of yourself and your place in this world. So, the next saying would be to wake up, the one thing you need the most is not energy or strength or youthfulness or even great intelligence. The one thing that you need most of all is the readiness to learn something new. What you really fear is the loss of the unknown by Anthony de Mello. So, be ready to face your future in be ready to face your future in life because we have because in life we have a lot of surprises and we must be ready because human as we are, we have weaknesses indeed. We need to change our perspective in life, be open, and go out from our comfort zone. And above all, life life of a person has a lot of definition. One of that is, am I happy? So our world is big. So not just be a simple person, be an extraordinary version of yourself. So never limit yourself to learn new things every day because learning is not just a learning. It is a gem that other people can get from you. So if a day doesn't motivate you, nothing will. So start your day with the motivation and excitement. So, for the last saying, can I have all your ears? Are you your clothes? Are you your name? Are you your profession? Stop identifying with them. They come and go. By Anthony de Mello. As hard as it is, don't identify too much with who you are at any moment. It can change tomorrow. It's not easy, but when you become aware of this, you change. You become less resentful or hateful. You're worried less and less. It's easier to receive critique or admit you're wrong. You'll be more open to others, and most of all, you're more open to life. So, everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. Everything is a title in life. Even your name, your house, your properties, your life is not yours. You exist because you have a purpose, and that purpose is to give hope to anybody, not to condemn them. Everything that I see is a reality, but it is not mine. There must be a true owner of all these things, and yet, if the death comes to me, all of this will go, and eventually I will not bring it into the second life. So that's all. Thank you.